What's going on, everybody? What is going on? What is crack-a-lackin'? How are y'all doing today? Welcome to the show. Usually I start the show a little bit early. I like to give a shout out to people that are in the chat that are working their way in. Don Teasy, yo, what's going on? Charles Faulkner, woo, what's going on with you? What's going on with you? One of my favorite police officers in the building. Oh, Charles Faulkner, what's up, buddy? What's cracking with you? I like to say, give a shout out to the Grey Regime and everybody that's involved with the Grey Regime and the Ebony Star Network. Today we're going to discuss the Fifth Amendment. And just a couple of things that we would like to talk about today, and policies and things that I see that we should do. So these are my thoughts, these are my opinions, this is how I look at things. Not all police are like this, not all police are in this thing, because we have a police in the chat, and I'm very proud of this man, and he is the other half of the Gray Faulkner Initiative. So yeah, we would definitely touch on some topics today in the show. We would definitely touch on some topics today. But I'll let people come in as they come in. I said if you can hear the music playing in the background, hit a 1 in the chat for me. If you can hear the music playing in the background. And how am I sounding to you? I want to make sure that I am clear, but I am not peaking. So I just want to know how I am sounding to you guys. Am I crystal clear? Am I foggy or something like that? Let me know in the chat. And how's everybody doing today? Charles, how you doing, bro? How's everything going with you? Don Teasy, how's everything going with you, man? How y'all been doing? How's the weekend been going? Well, the week been going for you, how's your Tuesday going? Vonda, how you doing? Welcome from the Ebony Star Network. Vonda, make sure you check out their, ladies' night on Fridays. Very interesting. We were talking about some things over there on the Ebony Star Network. Far as Gangsta Talk, Chaos Reigns, welcome to the show. Hit the like button as you enter. Oh man, chilling, healing your ankle, man. How's are you doing rehab yet, or you still in the 30-minute zone, 30 minutes off phase? They didn't have to put no pins or nothing in it, did they? In your ankle or anything like that? All is well in your front? Okay, that's good to hear, man. I heard they was turning up down there in your area, man. We're going to touch on that just a little bit today also. Classic Ruby, what is going on? Welcome. JustaskChar, the first lady of YouTube, the builder of worlds and panels. JustaskChar. She has the JustaskChar advice channel, and then they do their thing with her co-host Classic Ruby. They do that on Fridays also. They also do Saturdays. They do the articles. I love the articles. They go through the articles and they talk about them and they have a discussion. Also, Char is also co-host on DJMuziq's station, GSRN radio, and DJMuziq also does his Quiet Storm on Sunday. I was listening to it last Sunday. Very I like that sound. I like how everything gets along and things of that nature. So how's everybody else doing? Wait for a couple more people to get in the chat. We're going to get into it. Well, we're gonna probably get into it about in another 4 minutes. That'll give a lot of people, we black folk, we like to show up fashionably on time, or what they would call CPT time. So we like to show up on time, but when we show up, we show out. Charles, you said you might not yet, but you might need surgery. Oh man, whoa, yeah. is it like your ankle? It's no tendons or nothing. It's just is it bone? Is it a bone thing or is it just we getting old, man. We can't do what we used to. Yeah, yeah, I know it's back live again, right? You know what I'm saying? They can't get out their own way. You know what I'm saying? So just want to ask y'all how you doing, Vonda. How are you doing? How are you doing? I'd like to say thank you to all my mods in the chat. Thank you to all my mods that showed up and showed out. And intermittently, I will take a break to basically. Oh, you got two fractures, Shaw. Whoa, two fractures? Ooh. Well, are they like hairline fractures or what's up? Because once they start putting screws and stuff, man, that arthritis, boy, that rightus, boy. Maybe ligament damage. Ooh, man, you gonna be out for a minute, huh? You gonna be out for a minute. Well, I'm like, you've been. Well, at least everybody's down right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Man, sorry to hear that. Just got off the plantation. Oh well, yeah. Well, welcome back. Got you some free time. So I hope to entertain you and teach or give my version of some things. And since we have Charles in the chat, if I miss anything, Charles, because he is the officer of the law, he can type in the chat as well and basically tell us what I'm missing and stuff like that, because this is what I'm noticing. This is not my profession, but this is my viewpoint on it, and these are my views and my views only. So, but I will show you some things, and then you can read about it yourself. Most of the articles that I will be referring to, if I get to hit them all, the link is in the description itself. So without further ado, let's get the show cracking. So let me get this going. Welcome to the 1/3 show. This is Just DeAndre. I am your host, and I am the person that will be delivering to you 1/3 of a viewpoint. These views are my views. If you do not like what I am saying, you can respectfully challenge what I'm saying. If you're a content creator, you can go to your channel and you can do a reaction to what I am saying. If you just want to be a troll, we do not, by any point and matter, negotiate with terrorists. Our mods have a one shot, one kill policy, and that is totally in effect. So to each and every one of you, thank you for joining me once again, and let's get on with the show. Now, today we're going to be discussing the Fifth Amendment and the police and how this works to the best of our ability. So we're going to be discussing the Fifth Amendment. I will be bringing up the Fifth Amendment. I will be reading the Fifth Amendment, and I will give it, and I will show it, and I will talk about it and break it down. From where I see the standpoint is, I would ask that one of my mods, Mr. Charles Faulkner, he is an officer of the law, so if he can help me along with it by typing in the chat anything that I missed, or he can set me straight, I welcome that, because everybody doesn't think the same, and everybody has their own viewpoints on things, even in interpretation of facts. So here we go. Here we are. So let me go here. Let me go here. Okay. So here we go. And as I look into the chat, can you guys see my screen? Okay. So look over here. Nope, Can't see it. Okay. Hold on. Let me do it. Knew that was happening. All right. So, hold on. Hold on. Done. There we go. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, now, since we can see it now, here we go. Okay. So, the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment creates a number of rights relevant to both criminal and civil legal proceedings. In a criminal case, the Fifth Amendment guarantees the right to a grand jury, forbids double jeopardy, and protects against self incrimination. It also requires that due process of law be a part of any proceeding that denies citizen life, liberty, or property, and requires the government to compensate citizens when it takes private property for public use. Now, you know how when we watched the Dave Chappelle show, right? They had that little statement on, they had that little segment on it, that spoof, where they was asking all these questions. He's like, I plead the fifth, the fickety fifth, the fifth, the fifth. So you don't incriminate yourself. You don't say anything. You plead the fifth. That means you're making a statement, but you're not saying anything. So that's a cover. But I'm not talking about that part of the Fifth Amendment. We all know that part of the Fifth Amendment, right? So I'm going to read the Fifth Amendment to you, and I want you to key on something very particular in the Fifth Amendment. Now, this is from Cornell Law School, School of Law, okay? Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in, and this is where I want y'all to pay attention to, in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in the time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for the public use without just compensation. Now, this is the whole Fifth Amendment. But this is something I want you to be keen on. Now, remember, this Constitution was made back in 1776, so they didn't have an Air Force. Okay, land or naval forces or in the militia. So basically, it said is no person shall be held to answer for a capital offense. Capital offense means you can be executed, or otherwise infamous crime, felony. Okay, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So you have to have a jury to indict you so you can't go to court. Okay? So manslaughter, like, manslaughter and stuff like that, if it's not murder 1 or murder 2, right? Or all of this other stuff. So basically those are capital offenses, but you need a grand jury. Except in the cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia. So basically, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force used to be a department of the Army. And the Marines actually belongs to the Department of the Navy. Militia, National Guard, and actually the police force. Militia is also the police force. Because they're held to a higher standard, a certain amount of rules. In the military, we're held to the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. We have to be given authorization to fire our weapon even in a war zone. We cannot fire on civilians. They have to be perceived as an imminent threat. We have to make sure that they're a threat. We have to report it back to command. Command has to then give us visual and eyes on the ground. They have to say it, and then they have to get the fire command for us to fire upon. And we have to basically put ourselves in a position. Now, if we're protecting civilians, if we're protecting assets, if we're protecting certain things, then yes, we can defend. But to go on the offensive, we cannot. But what this means is that if a military member, Coast Guard, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Space Force, whatever, National Guardsmen, if they are involved in some type of capital offense or infamous crime, and they are still a part of that branch, they do not get the entitlement of being indicted by a grand jury. They are held. They go to a court martial, they go to jail, but they are held to a higher standard. They don't get a grand jury. So in the case of the police, when they are a militia, is funded by their state, protective state, and is backed up with federal funding and training and so forth, is they are not held to the same standards. Now, here's another thing: is the reason why they're not is a myriad of other reasons. We could go into the history, but I'm just saying that in the basis of the Constitution, that is your police policy right there. We don't need another policy. We don't need more policies because the Constitution should be enforced. That is the basic amendments of the Constitution. It says it right there in the Fifth Amendment that we like to quote so eloquently. The Fifth Amendment is not just double jeopardy. The Fifth Amendment also regulates our military forces and our militias, our National Guardsmen, and our police departments. There's your police reform right there in 1776. There it is, right there. Now you're probably asking yourself, whoa, this is crazy. Police department, not force, right? So now you're asking yourself these two questions here. And this is the one thing that I'm asking. If the militia is a part of this, they named them specifically. Remember, naval, land. These are forces. These are your military. Militia, your local groups to keep, because police officers are peacekeepers. They're trained, they're funded by taxpayer dollars. So is your military. So the Coast Guard is a little different because they are also under the Department of Homeland Security and Defense. So they are also law enforcement. Exactly. They're also law enforcement. So the Coast Guard, as the brother Charles Faulkner eloquently put out there, they're held to the standard too. They're held to the standard also. They can't just fire upon because they have the international waters and treaties and stuff like that. I have no problem with the police department in its ideals. And there are a lot of great police officers. And a lot of times their hands are tied behind their backs with a lot of stuff that happens. A lot of it happens. And they can't move their hands because we just saw the police unions that didn't have any black folk really standing with them. But there's your police reform before the reform needed to be in place. There's your policing policy right there. So how do they get around this? Well, when they know that the officer is going to get off, they run them through the due process. They have an internal investigation. They have DOJ pop in, right? Department of Justice. If the officer is in the rights of defending himself because of lethal force is used, they give him a reprimand because that's standard protocol. If you have if you have to discharge your weapon, they put you on some administrative leave. You have to get some psychological evaluation because it's shooken up. Even that he got a gun, shooting another person is a problem. Your humanity takes into play. What could have you done differently? Did you make the right decision? Did you make the right call? Because muscle memory takes over, your training takes over. If that's how you're being trained to do things, then that's what it is. There's a lot of dangerous folk out there. But here's another one that I would like to key on and I like to talk about here. If your training is more, if you have more training, because in the military, you have to have at least 9 weeks of basic training and then you go to your specialty. And what I think a lot of problems, a lot of issues with a lot of things with our people. And Charles Faulkner said it's a traumatic experience. I like to let me give a second to say hello to people in the chat. Xander, ahoy, auntie, ahoy, auntie, hey, Xander, Black Pill Paradise, what's going on with you? And he's right. Even in the military sense, Charles Faulkner he's an ex-Army vet. He did a whole bunch of tours in Iraq and over in the Middle East. Saw some things that you wouldn't want to see. So it is a traumatic experience discharging your firearm. This is not an animal. You're not going hunting. This is a human being. This is a person. So if you have any humanity in you, shooting a person, putting them down like that for the greater good, it does do something to you psychologically. Now, in the military, you have to go through basic training. You get the basics of the military, but then upon how you test and your aptitude, you are put in a certain area of the military. Not everybody are what we call quote unquote grunts. Like in the Army, they said everybody's a soldier, but people have what they call MOSs. They have different jobs for things. You got some guys that are with that are part of the tank crew. You got some guys that are there with artillery. You got some guys that are there as paratroopers. You got your special forces guys and everything. In the Navy, it's more of a logistical thing. You got people that fire guns. You got people that I was an engineer. I made sure that the ship moved to get where to, fro, and wherever. You have the Air Force where they have people that work on planes. They have people that watch planes. They have people that go in and extract the targets. They have people that work on the engines. In the Marines, same thing. They have people that are infantry. They have people that ride tanks. They have people that repair vehicles. There are people that do logistics. There are people that build bridges and stuff like that. Same thing with the Coast Guard. Same thing with the National Guard. Even though they're weekend warriors, they have their different callings. Then if we know this about our military, to go into foreign lands, to go against an enemy and a culture that you do not understand, and we hold them to that standard, why don't we hold our own police to have the same standard with our own citizens? Because you as a black person, you are a citizen of the United States of America. You are a citizen of the United States of America. And a lot of these police precincts are defunded already. If you defund them anymore, you won't have any police. Do we need police? Yes, we do. Are there bad guys out there? Yes, there are. If the police went away, you'll have these white supremacist groups acting aided and abetted. Actually, the white supremacists are the ones that's killing the cops the most. They're the ones that do the most. The most. I think police officers should be divvied up in a specialty group. I think a police officer is not a wrench for everything. It's not a monkey wrench for everything. It takes a lot to deal with a domestic dispute. It takes a lot to deal when you show up and you see a child getting abused. It takes a lot to deal with someone that is under the influence of narcotics. It takes a lot to deal with someone all day. Like a police officer have to deal with a lot of stuff. But here's the problem that we have as black folk. We understand all that, but why is it that a black person is 2 to 3 to 4 times likely to die with an encounter with the police than a white person? So I'm going to share some articles here and we're going to talk about it just a little bit more. We're going to talk about it. So remember last couple of weeks, the NYPD, they were kneeling with the protesters, right? To show solidarity. Well, let me read you an article. This was June 13th. This was June 13th. This is June 17th for me. It is June 16th for you. This is 3 days ago. NYPD lieutenant apologizes to colleagues for kneeling during protests. Now, this is on heels of the police union president talking about stop treating us like animals and stop treating us like dogs when he made that whole press conference. We've been saying that for 400 years. Even the police, but the thing that I noticed, that there was no black people in that union. Imagine that. I'm not going to ask the brother Charles Faulkner anything about that because that, that's a fraternity. I'm not going to ask him to put himself out there if he's a part of the union or whatever, right? But that means nothing. This is what I want to understand. All those black police officers knew what that man was saying up there wasn't right. But I'm going to read through this. NYPD lieutenant apologizes to colleagues for kneeling during protests. A lieutenant with the New York Police Department who knelt alongside George Floyd protesters apologized for doing so in an email to his colleagues, writing, "The cop in me wants to kick my own you know what." The cop in me wants to kick my you know what. Not the human in me. But the cop in me wants me to kick my you know what. Think about that for a second. This is what they think. The cop. The slave chasers. The militia. The good old boy network. This is him kneeling right here. In a June 3rd email obtained by the NBC, New York, the officer, Lieutenant Robert Cantonini, said his kneeling with protests goes against every principle and value that I stand for. Cantonini was among at least 4 officers who submitted to demonstrators' chants of NYPD take a knee during a May 31st protest in Lower Manhattan, according to New York Post, which first reported the email. The police lieutenant told his colleagues in the email that he had trouble sleeping after he made a horrible decision to give in to the crowd's protesters' demands and kneeling alongside several officers. See, now that's where we have a problem. When they demanded for them to get off of that man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that cop did not comply. He didn't want to hear their demands. Now that man lay dead in the gutter, screaming for his children and his mother. Now, all cops that have some humanity in them, because they are humans, they know that that was wrong. They know that he shouldn't have been on that man's neck. They detest it. But you know the one that's talking about it? is the ones that don't shame the same hue as you. Now, you can read the rest of this, but I just wanted to read that because we're going to go over to something else. This is Major GT Bynum on Wednesday blasted one of his police department top commanders after the officer denied that there's systemic racism in law enforcement, then said African Americans probably ought to be shot more. This is a tough. Wait a minute. Hold on. This was June 12th. Is the 16th for you? The 17th for me. That's 4 days ago. Was it the president of the United States was going to hold a Make America Great Again, aka right-wing conservative racist rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Do you think this is all a coincidence? Let me read just a little bit of it for you, but you can go find it for yourself. African Americans probably ought to be shot more by police, a top Tulsa officer said. Tulsa Major GT Bomb said Wednesday blasted one of his officers' top commanders after the officer denied that there's systemic racism in law enforcement, then said African Americans probably ought to be shot more. Tulsa's chief of police, Wendell Franklin, the first African American to hold that position, on Thursday also denounced the incendiary comments made by Major Travis Yates. Chief Wendell Franklin and the Tulsa Police Department want to make it very clear we do not endorse or condone or support Yates' comments made on the show. A statement from TPD said this matter has been referred to our Internal Affairs Unit. Yates was on KFAQ on Monday, a weekly segment called Behind the Blue Line, when he said there is no institutional racism in policing. All the research said included to Roland Fryer, an African-American Harvard professor, Heather McDonald, and the National Academy of Sciences. All the research says we're shooting African Americans about 24% less than we probably ought to based on the crimes being committed, Yates said. Yates did not specifically cite what studies led him to this conclusion. A representative for the National Academy of Sciences declined to comment on Thursday. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now, exactly, Charles Faulkner. If you disband the police department, you will have total anarchy and very lack of protection, which will take for granted in the U.S. Yes. I don't say you should disband the police department, and I don't say you should defund it. I say you should allocate those to open up different branches and departments in the police department and adequately train them properly for people that are skilled to deal with the public. But I also think that we should initiate the Gray Faulkner Initiative. If we got more police, more black people being police in these police departments, we can push down and mitigate the racism, and we can police each other since they can't tell us apart. If you look into the Asian communities and the Arab communities, they have their own police officers that police their communities. The police used to walk the beat when I was younger. We knew who the policemen were. We knew their names. They used to walk around. They used to be a part of the communities, but since the communities are being disenfranchised now, the communities no longer exist because of the gentrification process. Exactly, Charles. I'm all with that. The Gray Faulkner Initiative. And I'm glad that Charles Faulkner is here. Because because this is an ideology in the police department. You're hearing it right now. So let me move on. Let's move on because there is more, right? I'm sorry I don't have, the video today. But I wanted to hit on these articles real quick. And then I wasn't going to really open a panel today, but I think it's necessary because we have Charles sitting in the chat and him and Cerulean, and I would like to get their voices on this most definitely. So here we go. Okay, so now this is something that I don't approve of. NYPD officers get sick after drinking milkshakes in NYC Shake Shack. As a statement released overnight, the NYPD says the investigation has revealed that officers were not poisoned. Okay, now what happened was they found out that it's another article. I couldn't find it before I went live. But someone at Shake Shack decided to put bleach in these officers' milkshakes. And they got sick because of that. So that's what happened. But see, this is what I want to show you the difference in a lot of stuff. Now, this is in America. First, let me talk about the England one. Let's talk about England real quick. This is in England. Girl who stabbed best friend in the back over fear she still boyfriend is spared jail. They can't show you the girl, but they'll show you the victim. This is the victim right here. Let me read it for you. A 16-year-old girl stabbed her best friend in the back because she thought she wanted to steal her boyfriend. Eve Houghton Cross, 19, suffered a punctured lung and a blade narrowly missed her spine when she was attacked in Livingsgarth Park, Fulwood, Preston. She was only 17 when she was knifed twice on 1 March last year. Eve attacker, who cannot be named for legal reasons, walked free from court this week when a judge gave her a lenient sentence due to her age and the current COVID-19 pandemic. The girl was given 2-year rehabilitation order, a 10-year restraining order, and will spend 3 months on a tag. Pretty much house arrest. That's English. That's British English for house arrest. Tag. Right? You know, the ankle bracelet. Eve dropped out of college and now suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and panic attacks. Yes. That would, you would think you're safe around your friends, right? She has shared graphic images of her injuries as a warning about knife crime. In the UK, you really can't have guns, so they have a lot of knife attacks if y'all don't notice. Preston Crown Court heard the attacker was 16 at the time, was 2 days within withdrawal from ketamine and ecstasy. She's in withdrawal, so she's been hooked on this for a while. Joshua Bowker, prosecuting, says she went to the park armed with a large kitchen knife in her waistband, grabbed Eve's head, pushed it to the ground, and stabbed her. This is premeditated assault. If she would have died, that's premeditated manslaughter, but in the UK, it's a little different, right? The court heard she was unhappy at Eve's perceived friendship with the boy. She grabbed Eve by the head, sat on a wall listening to headphones, and began raining blows down on her. Eve fell to her knees and felt blows on her back before the defendant's boyfriend tried to stop her. She spent 3 days in the hospital where medics found she had suffered 2 wounds measuring 3 centimeters to 4 centimeters. Look at that right there. Sentencing judge told the teen, "You heard her today describe how she was drenched in her own blood, particularly her knickers and pants." Knickers means underwear. as the blood cascaded down her back. I've seen photos of both wounds. They are horrendous to look at. However, Eve says she felt her attacker had been given a lenient sentence. She says she was too scarred to continue her college course and pursue a career in pharmacy. Eve also quit her job at the hospital through fear of bumping into her attacker again, and now works night shifts as there is less chance of seeing her around. Eve added, "My mom and dad and sister really struggled mentally and emotionally. Mom and dad have had to take time off work to support me. She has called the authorities to get tougher on knife crime. The defendant will also be subjected to police surveillance, 25 hours supervision per week, and must complete a knife crime program." This is the UK. These are white people. She almost killed the girl. Let me read another one for you. 13-year-old sentenced to 18 months enrolled in robbery murder of Tessa Majors. A 13-year-old boy was sentenced to 18 months in custody on Monday after admitting his involvement in the 2019 robbery and killing of Barnard College freshman. He's a 13-year-old boy killing a grown woman. The teen will serve a minimum of 6 months in a secure facility. New York City's Office of Cooperation Counsel said in a statement that the city's Children's Services Department can then release and monitor him. Can then release. I ain't gonna read no more. Y'all just listen. Y'all go read it for yourself. I am getting very upset and agitated with this. I am getting very upset and agitated with this. I am getting very upset and agitated with this. Yes, I just said a knife program. Right? But this is how they police us. Right? A kid playing in the park, a kid getting some Skittles, a kid walking down the street with some Black and Miles, a kid playing with a little toy gun, not bothering anybody, a man selling loose cigarettes, a man just brought a pack of cigarettes, doing regular stuff, a dude drunk in his car, a woman sitting in her house, a man jogging, a woman, an EMT that goes around help saving lives, getting people to the hospital, gets murdered in her house. Children getting killed, women getting killed, a man sitting in his house watching TV, eating ice cream, getting murdered in his home because someone was drunk and thought they was in the wrong house. Now, the key thing about this Fifth Amendment is that when they fire you, now you become a regular citizen. So then you need a grand jury indictment. But since you did it within the realm of the job with the immunity clause, unless they can prove it without a shadow of a doubt with 3 different angles and people there and witnesses, you'll get a lighter sentence. And even if you do go to jail, you still have access to your pension. Oh, y'all don't know that the guy that killed George Floyd, he still can get access to his $1.3 million pension. And oh, yes, that his wife divorced him, that you can't take away his personal property or he can't be sued civilly because he doesn't have anything because his wife has everything because he had to sign it over to her name. So he's actually keeping his stuff because she could just remarry him later. Oh, y'all didn't know about that, right? Did you know that when the video came out and everybody was besieging the town, he was working on a plea deal for 4 days before they had to say, no, we're going to have this go all the way out because the people want blood? Did you not know this? Well, I'll be. Right? Did you not know this? Was this not a thing? You if we understand how these things work and how everything moves, this is crazy. This is it doesn't even make sense. I'm just showing you what they're doing to kids. Now, mind you, there were no black people involved in with these two children. This was them doing this to each other. So imagine what they'll do to you. When that boy walked in there and shot up that whole church, they took him in. They even would say, "Hey, I'm going to get me something to eat. Would you like a burger?" They didn't ask Trayvon Martin. George Floyd didn't ask Trayvon Martin. George Zimmerman didn't ask Trayvon Martin would he like some Skittles. He was actually bragging about it. Went and go sign some. When that young man got shot in the park, bang bang. Oh, I thought he was a grown man. When that man was selling loose cigarettes, give him a fine. You telling me two cops couldn't take down a drunk dude? Come on now. Come on now. I saw a video of a guy resisting arrest. Literally resisting arrest. He jumped in a squad car and took off with it. We all saw the video of the white girl jump in the squad car. They arrested her, jumped in the squad car, drove off with it, was on a police chase, and tried to run the officers over. They had several times they could have used deadly force, but they didn't. We see it all the time. We know they police us differently. I say they, not all, they. There's a group. There's a group that has infiltrated our police system. And that's why we need the Gray Faulkner Initiative. We need to put that into play. We need to get in these positions of power. We definitely need it. We definitely need it. Most definitely need to. So I'm an hour in. I'm an hour in here. And what I would like to do, since I'm an hour in, is I wanted to get through those very quickly, because it's been a rapid fire thing going on lately, um, with a lot of the stuff that we're doing, far as the content. And I would like to get back to my content, make the show more upbeat, because every time we look in the news, we're seeing this. Um, and I'll touch on this moving forward, but I won't make the whole show about this, because I would like to talk about some things that are near and dear to my heart. Now, I like to give us some good news. And the good news is that let me find this. Should have had this ready already. Let me find this. Hold on. Let me find it. But what we have here, um, is there has been wow. Um uh there has been a African American reparations bill, and I want to show this. I'm gonna show my screen before we continue here. Sorry about that. African American um African American reparations bill. Hold on. Oh, okay. Yeah, so the African American reparations bill, I'm sorry. Um they bringing that forward for the House, and what they're doing by bringing that forward in the House is okay, this shit's acting up. And this is California. So Cerulean was telling me we got to really look at it. Um, we got to really look at it first before we get too happy. Okay. Technical difficulties. Bear with me, guys. So African American reparation bill passes California Assembly, right? Sacramento, California, a proposal to establish a task force to study and prepare recommendations for how to give reparations to African Americans passed the California Assembly on Thursday. The bill advanced with a 56 to 5 vote as protests nationwide over police brutality re-energized the movement for racial justice and activists passing for sweeping reforms. It is a top priority by California Legislative Black Caucus. If the bill passes the Senate and is signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom, 8 people with background in racial justice reforms will lead the study into who would be eligible for compensation and how it would be awarded. The Assemblywoman Shirley Weber, a Democrat from San Diego who wrote the bill, said the study would reiterate California's history of abetting slavery even as it joined the Union as a free state in 1850. The discriminatory practices of the past echo into the everyday lives of today's Californians, says Weber, who leads the legislature of Black Caucus. Okay, so this is getting some wheels, guys. Um, I like to leave at least that on the high note that this movement is getting some wheels. Now, please, like I say, please do not let outside entities hijack the movement. Now, for everybody that knows, um, uh, with everybody that knows and stuff like that, right? Is what if you would like to join in on the panel? Charles Farton, I gotta send you the invite. Charles, if you still in the chat, tap a 1 in the chat for me. I'm gonna send you the invite so you can come into the server and you can say a few words in the server and stuff like that. Cerulean, you know your place is always needed in there. So let me get this together uh, right now. So let me get this right now. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So feel free to jump in. Um, feel free to jump in whenever needed. Okay. And we have the esteemed Cerulean Grey here. What's going on? What's going on? Oh, I can hear you just fine. I'm just going to let me get onto the mix. Charles, I sent you the I sent you an invite to the server. Um, post haste. Sent it to you. So just check your thing on Discord. We're gonna do it on Discord because actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to shift it to Skype. Um, because I saw that you can use Skype, so I'm gonna do a test stream with that. Yeah, I sent it to you on Discord, Charles. So you should have it. You should have it in your invites and stuff. Yeah. So how am I coming in? How's everybody coming in? How are we coming in? Can y'all hear Cerulean? Y'all can't hear Cerulean. Okay, so all right. So built-in microphone. All right. Audio capture. Cerulean, say a few words. Okay.
Am I coming in loud and clear?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine. Uh, let's see. Me hearing you and they hearing you is two different things. So let me see if y'all can still hear. Let me get this mix going here. Yeah. If not, we're gonna have to do it the old school way. We have to go back old school. Can you hear Cerulean now, everybody? Let's see. No, no. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it the old school way then. We can't hear him. He or Cerulean, can you say a couple of words?
Greetings, greetings. Microphone check 1 2 1 2.
Okay, so let me see. Got everything up. And Ruby say, so we're gonna do this the old school way.
Holla if you hear me. Holla if you hear me.
Yeah. So let's Cerulean.
Yep.
Can y'all hear Cerulean now? You said you were low, so that you should be loud now.
All right, check. What?
He sounds far away, but yes, we can hear him. Okay, so there's a little lag. You know what I'm saying? How there's a little lag, so I'm gonna just wait till everybody here. Yeah, let's see. Internal microphone. Okay, yeah. So okay, yeah, you much better now. Go ahead, Cerulean.
All right, check. Yes. Some of the most egregious things, as we know, that happen to black folk. And I've always been an advocate of making white folk walk on eggshells. Not just white folk, but specifically those that intend us harm. It's to make them walk on eggshells with lawsuits. You know, because the question becomes how much are your rights, your constitutionally granted rights and your human rights, how much are they really worth if you're constantly forgiving, if you're constantly peacefully protesting? We can see the tremendous difference in what peaceful protest does versus liberation actually does. When we talk about liberation, you have to make racism too expensive to continue to practice. You know, and I hear a lot of things about, well, why aren't the black officers saying anything? Well, if you know about America's police force, you'll know that America, overall, police, we actually make up less than a comparable size of our population. So if we're 12% of the population, we're less than actually half of that nationwide as far as police go.
Yeah.
You see, now there's two ways that we can do it. Me personally, I would recommend defunding the police, but I would definitely recommend getting rid of policemen's unions. Because why is a public servant doing having a union which is designed to protect you from private exploitation?
Right.
You're a public servant, that's like the military.
Right.
And therefore, you are liable for anything that you do to private citizens. The same way whenever we are deployed somewhere and someone shoots down an innocent, even if it's on accident, they are held accountable to the highest degree. I'm talking not only the UCMJ, but international law.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it that you have 17, 18, 19-year-old kids being held to a higher standard than the people that you deal with every single day in your communities? Police. Now when you talk about police reform, policemen's unions should be abolished.
Yeah.
Because that's where the cover of protection, when you talk about the blue line, that's where it exists. The blue line of silence, it exists in the policemen's union.
Oh, yeah.
Now you can look at the policemen's union and you wonder why there has never been a black head of a policemen's union. Other than the ones that black police officers have created themselves, like the Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
Then why is it that you have black policemen's unions like the Vanguard? Why are they less funded than the policemen's unions, the white policemen's union? If you know about the white policemen's union, they're federally funded. Now the Vanguard is literally funded by the police who is a part of the organization. They're not getting the Vanguard isn't getting any federal money.
No, they're not.
And this is why you need the Great Factory Initiative now more than anything. A direct pipeline. And if we're not going to do that, then what we need to do is completely reorganize every single department, every single precinct. There's no reason why you could be in a place where there's 70% black folk and you got a 7% white police force. You know, like the thing that happened down in Missouri. 70-something% black, but the police are 70-something% white. See, there has to be a major transformation of all of America's institutions. 80% white teachers, for instance. 80% white teachers and less than half of the students in the Department of Education are black. Or less than half of the students are white. We got 80% white teachers. But see, you have damn excuses for me. Tell me that the Great Factory Initiative, fuck the Great Factory Initiative, yada, 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 yada. But now, we insist for the necessity of the Great Factory Initiative as we keep right before our eyes. How?
How, Sway? How?
What's up?
Woo, what's up? You're
This is the reason why I look at black people and I say, you know what? I can give you the keys to a Rolls Royce, but you motherfuckers will never drive. See, people talk about defunding the police department. Actually, that would hurt the citizens very much. If you live in a city like Baltimore, that would actually be the opposite of what the effect you would get. You would have no police. You'd be subject to anarchy. But when you tell black people, if they're hiring, take it over. Oh, this is the white man's military. This is the white man's police department. And guess who told you that first? The white man. He has no problem making his career generational, where he'll bring his son, his grandson, and great-grandson, his nieces and nephews, his daughter, on the departments. What you actually need to do is actually support your police officers from your community and support them getting promoted within. Bring more.
I mean, it should be a pipeline. See, because I'm a fan of federal funding for our initiative, right? Because you look at all of these other initiatives, all of them getting federal funds. They're getting federal money. They're not doing this pulling themselves up by the bootstrap. They're not getting angel investors or any of that. All of that's coming from the federal government. And for us, it should be a direct pipeline, so that we can select our own damn police. You're like, oh, we got 50,000 boys from around the state, around the various states that are chosen and say, look, this is all you're going to do whenever you get out of high school. You're going to be the next to serve this community.
Especially when you put money into a pot, into an account for each one of them, and say you're going to give us at least 10 years. 10 years, early retirement. If you pay, the pot increase with interest. But you know why? Motherfuckers don't want to put their money where their mouth is. It's easy to go chant Black Lives Matter, but guess what? When black lives end up being black boys who need the jobs, who are most acceptable to being put in situations of excessive force, unemployment, low wages, why not put them in departments where they'll excel?
See, and I'm not gonna, you know, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. You know, if we're crying about police brutality in another generation, I'm not even gonna want to hear that shit at age 60. You see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to hear that shit at age 60 from some niggas that whenever they had a fucking chance to get behind the fucking initiative, they sat there and shat on it. But then after the fact, they want to still cry about police brutality, and they want to cry that black men ain't getting treated the way they're supposed to be treated. Oh, but remember 20 years ago when we had a guy named Officer Faulkner introduced the Gray Faulkner Initiative, and you niggas shat on it? You said we didn't need that because it was the white man's. Well, now this is what you want. See, we have a way of, you know, and this is what I'll say, something about the black community that we know for a fact. The black community does have a fucking culture, just like American culture, of fucking killing children's dreams. We do. We absolutely do.
We do.
Now, anybody that can fucking deny that, you know, it's just fucking lying to their face. We have a way of killing our own fucking dreams.
Mm-hmm.
We said we want independence. Wait, you don't police yourself. Whenever you burn down the fucking city, you got motherfuckers coming out. You burning down your own communities. Anytime you can be killed with impunity in the community in which you reside, that is not your fucking community. You have to take your fucking community. And not just live there, you have to be willing to serve it. I.e., you have to be willing to police it yourself.
But guess what? When it comes to work, that's when all the chanting stops. See, yeah, I like to piggyback off of what the professor said, if you don't mind, Greg.
Go ahead, man. Hey, y'all got it.
I like to piggyback off of this shit because he's talking some real shit. See, it's easy to put on a black mask and put up a black fist, but you know what black people also are guilty of? Not just killing dreams. We're guilty of work, of lack of thereof.
Yeah, we just don't have the work ethic our ancestors had. We just don't.
We're guilty of not even having an end game. What the fuck do you expect? Do you expect to take over the police department and employ your people, or do you just want to suffer just a little bit less? Because to me, it sounds like people want to suffer just a little bit less.
Yeah, they want to get poisoned just a little bit less. You know, I always look at it like we're all stuck in this room and poison gas is being filtered in, right? And instead of banding together to make an exit or to make a change, no, or to make the necessary sacrifice to at least stop the fucking poison gas from coming into the room. No. What we want to do is we want to fight over the one fucking oxygen tank that's in the room.
Mm-hmm. Instead of figuring out how to get the fuck out the room. See, Black people are very disingenuous to their plight. How can you ask somebody to recognize your humanity when you're talking to somebody who showed you they don't have much humanity to begin with themselves, and two, who enslaved you and denied you of yours in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Last time I checked, before I was a criminal justice major, I was a history major. Not one time anybody in history ever received power through begging.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that.
Why do you think the white supremacists created that line to say a black man ain't got no place in a white man's military? They claim the military for themselves, but mind you, it's not a white man's military. And how do we know it's not a white man's military? Because most of the motherfuckers that are in it that might have white skin, they're all Johnny-come-latelys, second, third generation immigrants. And you telling me you're gonna let some second and third generation immigrants talk you out of your shit? You built the country, right? So that means the military is yours, right? That means that the police in it is yours, right? That would also mean the Department of Education is yours, right? Then you have to fucking get up off your fucking ass and claim it for yours. And you don't like the way that you're being educated? Take the fucking Department of Education. Problem solved. You don't like the way that police brutality goes down? Take the fucking police departments. They're yours. Take them. Then problem solved. And then what you do is you fill up that department with people that agree with your fucking politics, that look like you, that know whenever they see a black man, they're more hesitant to fucking shoot on sight.
Let's talk the truth real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black people still have this obsession that they can't see a black man in charge. They still love that white daddy ruling over them.
I think that's what it is too, Charles.
The white man
still have that I want to go to a white doctor mentality when they don't realize a black man who's an MD actually had to be twice as good to obtain it and 3 times better to keep it.
Ooh, say it again, Charles, for the people in the back.
So you're telling me you have a police officer who had to fight even harder than his white compatriots, right?
Mm-hmm.
His counterparts. He had to be twice as good to get there. And it'd be 3 times better to keep it. But you prefer to talk to the white guy. How do I know this? There's plenty of times I go to a call and motherfuckers want to talk to the white guy, not me. You're black. But you don't hear Black Lives Matter chanting that shit, do you?
But Black Lives Matter know exactly who to fucking talk to when they want that check.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But see, the problem is the black man refused to take his leadership position, and the black woman refused to step back and let that man get it. That's the reason why you motherfuckers are bitch-made when it comes to taking power from your oppressor.
No, but y'all, they think that they know how to take power. They think that sitting there complaining about it, crying about it, right? That's gonna make them see the humanity in this black man, this humane and sensitive, morally just black man who is a noble of American society. And no. He doesn't want to go in there and take the fucking military, take the fucking police department. As a matter of fact, the first place that you should start if you want to get your boys joining the military, start at the goddamn National Guard. Why National Guard?
State organization.
You see what just happened. And you see what happened when the generals sat out and scolded Trump. No, we don't do that around here. Now just imagine, you know the impact that it would have on little black boys if that general was a black man? But I think that has something to do with a lot of these niggas. They just love that white savior.
Oh yeah.
Well,
you know what? Go ahead, bro.
But you know where it comes from, right? Right? He gonna come off that cross and he gonna save you. Right? He gonna come back again.
He's gonna come off that cross and ask you for his tithes. He's gonna come off that cross and ask you for $5.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Brett? The problem is this. The problem is really this. Number one, black man, this is how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be 3 things. You're supposed to be the champion, the hero, and the savior yourself. You know, one time there was this old guy who once said it best. When I went searching for me, I found God. When I went searching for God, I found my damn self. Mm-hmm. How the hell can you have created a universe for a prayer when he gave you the tools right there? How many times you in the middle of the sea? He sent boat after boat after boat, and your dumbass refused to get on. You go to heaven, Lord, why didn't you save me? I sent my goddamn 10 boats, you idiot.
Yeah, we have this, this white savior syndrome in our minds. And I remember talking to that one flea bag that was from the BAIO, who said, yeah, we should let the white man have it. You want the white man to have a monopoly, right, over the country that you've built, over the institutions that you have contributed to the most to building. You are the group of people that brought this fucking country into a first world reality and a world power. And you're telling me you're going to give that all up because you don't want to join that white man's military. You mean the white man's military that protects the fucking country that you built? How the fuck does that work?
How would you even have a dollar in your pocket if you didn't have a military?
Can I ask a question? I like this. Charles, off the top of your head, these are not actual, we haven't run around and did a lot of facts or whatever, but in your estimation, how many police officers are prior military? Like percentage.
Actually, it's not as many as you think.
I would say around 30 to 35%.
30? Yeah, so it's like less than a third.
Okay, so out of that 35%, let's just say you take all of the people that were prior military, 30 to 35%. How many of those officers get into just unneeded shootings?
Actually, they did the study on it. This is less than like 3% of all police involved shootings of citizens. Less than 3% were former military.
Like, it's very low because you know why? Most military people have a very stringent discipline. They're very strict when it comes to their discipline. Mm-hmm. We learn how to, as they say in the military, bullshit the bullshitter.
Yep.
Because we're used to dealing with high stress situations, so it's like almost nothing to us. Not saying that there are times we don't take it seriously. We do. But you learn how to cope with it better. You learn how to deal with it. Whereas though when you have a situation where you have to go hands-on, most of them people are taught to do hand-to-hand combat, which means the better you're with your hands and your feet, your knees and your joint locks, the less likely you're going to go to your weapon, unless you have a situation where you're just totally overpowered or outnumbered, or somebody pulls out a knife or gun.
Right.
Like, I'm not expecting, if I see Classic Ruby as a cop, and I'm the suspect, I don't expect her to try to physically overpower me. But if she draws her weapon, and if I take one more step trying to affront matter to her, I'm going to get what I get.
Right.
But most of the time, you're going to get people who, number one, they're going to call for more units, show of force, strength in numbers.
Right.
And they're going to have a plan before they even go to the situation, which minimizes police brutality. There's something that people forget when it comes to military and police science. There's foolhardiness or tombstone courage, and then there's calculated risk. Which you say would be a detrimental risk if I go to work without my vest and my weapon with one in the chamber loaded. That would be detrimental to my health.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to talk about complete police reform, here's my suggestions. I think that the police should have one unified code, or if not, they can't come up with a codified system of operations. You have to put the entire police force of the United States under the UCMJ. They should be held to the same standards as your regular military. They should be under the UCMJ. If they can't decide for themselves, which we know that a lot of these civilian-controlled institutions, like these local police departments are very fickle and ambiguous, put them under the UCMJ. I bet you shit would change overnight. Second, disband all the policemen's unions. Public servants shouldn't have unions. Military, rural public servants, we didn't have unions.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because a union is to protect you from private corporations. It's not to protect you from your state, your government. Because if you're a federal fucking employee, that makes you a public servant. If you are a state employee, that makes you a public servant. That means that even a police officer, even though they are not elected, they are selected, they still work for the elected official of the goddamn state.
And the taxpayers pay their salary.
And so therefore there shouldn't be a policeman's union. They should not. Mm-hmm. Secondly, when a police officer is involved in these kind of situations, they should be treated the same way regular civilians are treated. Mm-hmm. You have legal fees, that gets tapped from your pension, not from state funds. If you have anything left over, that should go to the family of your victims. Third, not only should it go to the family of your victims, you should still be held liable in a civil suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I bet you shit would change. Oh, you get to lose your pension? Yeah, you get to fucking send your family to the goddamn poorhouse the same way you sent that man's family who you just killed to the poorhouse.
Yeah. Because not everybody is a George Floyd that has a friend that's a retired millionaire NBA star. Right?
Secondly, if you want to talk about complete police reform, I think that the police should be under a 3 strikes clause the same way they had the 96 crime bill. They should be under the same 3 strikes clause. You got more than 3 infractions, you let go. And you don't get to fucking go to another state and get hired. And then not only that, anybody that does hire police that fucking has 3 strikes, anybody that hires these officers that has 3 strikes on their fucking record, guess what? They get penalized. That means they have to pay a fee. That does what? That generates revenue for the state or the city. See, it's a proper government that I'm talking about here.
Okay. I'm gonna say something that I saw in a chat that was made by Classic Ruby.
What'd you say?
Number one, I hate it when people say, well, they were trained less than, okay. Does anybody actually know the average training for police in the country?
I have no idea. That's what you're here for, Charles.
I know here in Minnesota, the police academy is about 6 months.
It's 6 months plus 3 months. 3 to 4 months field training, where you get your gun and your badge on the street, and you're a field training officer. Not including your yearly in-service, which is on average, 1 to 2 weeks of training, and other training that we go through, both online and in person. You never stop training, and nor does a hairstylist ever outmatch our training.
But Charles, we have to say this. If that is the regimen of training that they have, that would make these situations even worse because we can't chalk it up to training. Then we have to say, okay, there has to be a complete overhaul because training obviously isn't the problem.
It's not even training because a lot of times, if you go to training, especially defense tactics, they will tell you what you saw in Minneapolis is the complete and opposite shit that we taught you. You will be thrown under the bus. Now, number 8 is coming on Greenmount and just ran over your head. And guess what? That is exactly like when people look at the policy of what to do and not to do, ignorance of the law does not excuse you from it. Mm. So when you actually do some shit like that, and put your knee on somebody's neck, and they specifically put it in your general orders or your policies, whatever the hell they call them, not to do it, and you get your ass fired and criminally charged for that shit, oh well, you can't say it's training. You can say it's that fucking dumbass individual, definitely. It's not training, because you're told what to do and what not to do. Because once you strike or lean your weight against somebody's neck, that is a vital spot. That is deadly force.
Now
so that mother is right.
Now, Charles, from what I read, the Minneapolis Police Department, they just, after the George Floyd thing, they just outlawed using that choke or that. So they just did it. So a lot of police departments went away from it. I think LA was another one that had to put it in practice, and New York finally got rid of the choke too. The same one.
Number one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Mm-hmm. No department ever legally said put chokeholds in. They never were supposed to. They never were supposed to. No department will ever okay chokeholds. You know why? Because when you take judo, that's what the last motherfucking thing they'll teach you. Chokeholds.
Yep. So was it more of a, if they don't say I can't do it, I can do it type of thing? You know how the military is, right? Right.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, like.
And just to tell you, classic Ruby, the average is 10 months plus your field training, because they extended academy training, not including when they take your ass off the street for a month or two to do diamond or whatever the hell training.
But that's for your average rank and file officers. That's not including like your pay to play officers, right? Your pay to play officers, they come from a wealthy family background, and they got connections, and they get deputized because somebody knows the chief of police, the superintendent, or the mayor. Right?
Oh yeah, because they don't do it here. Maybe the counties, but more the sheriffs, because they don't do it here, because once they go through the field training, you're given a go or no go status. Like, hell no, you need to go back.
Yeah.
It's not. Are we looking for a perfect system? Yes, because does perfection exist? No. So, when you go through the training, you're told what to do, what you can do, what you cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No department ever promotes chokehold. That's one of the quickest ways to get fucking fired. Unless it's a deadly force situation, and where you have no other option, you can't use your weapon or your weapon's disabled. Like, there's so many times I told people when it comes to the rulings and procedures of policing. And this is the reason why I've always told civilians, guess what? Come to the meetings. Go volunteer for the academy to go through what do police go through on an average. Because if you're trying to compare the job of a hairstylist or a police officer, I'm just going to laugh at you. Yeah. Well, because the training is never ending.
Well, see,
that's the specialized units.
See, that's
not including you got to keep your fucking shit up. Well, like I always said, not all officers are the same. Not all officers are Charles Faulkner either. You're not going to have every officer who's 5'10", 280 pounds who could lift pretty much 500 pounds. You're not going to have a lot of guys who train in wrestling, boxing, and mixed martial arts.
Right. So
go ahead, Dre.
And this is where, you know what I'm saying, and this is where, like, a lot of times when people pull stats and stuff, and they pull statistics and they pull things, and Cerulean even said it's more egregious if the training's already there, right? And we know what the real issue is. I've ran into police officers that have been incredibly patient, right? I'm talking about, incredibly patient. And I've ran into police officers that that just want to start shit with you because they having a bad fucking day, right? And I've you know, and either or things have escalated, this, that, and the third, and whatever. Um, but and this is just me. I know in a city like Baltimore, you know, as small as Baltimore as is more as it as more, you know, Baltimore is this weird mix where it's like a small town because you'll know every cop in your area sooner or later. You out there on the streets, you deal with the police long enough, you'll know the cops by name. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure most of the guys that are, you know what I mean, that you dealt with on your beat know you by name. Or they got a nickname for you. Right? And that means that you're respected in the community. Even if you are scourge of the community, one of them scourgy cops. Right? Like we had Big Murph over on West Side, over West when I was growing up. Right? Hey, man, Big Murph come around, you leave. Right? You know what I mean? Big Murph will be in that car. Don't make me get out this car. You better clear that block. Well, I'm going to clear you. Right? Then everybody roll out. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to deal with Murph. You got a youngin' that don't know no better. Murph take him through the back alley and work him out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. It wasn't what it was. But at the same time, you know, both of you, where I look at it is, you know, it's Baltimore and you go through that training. But the media likes to put out these misconceptions about certain things on both sides of the fence. What I'm looking at is the willful ignorance, and you know, when I was looking at the president of the Fraternal Order of Police in New York and the one down in Florida, just looking at him, man, like that's the thing that we're talking about. It's not the police, it's not internal affairs, it's the union. Right?
It was the union here because in Baltimore, it's more so the state's attorney, the mayors, and the city councils who are fucking oblivious.
Yeah.
Because here in Baltimore, what we have lately, we have a lot of the FOP presidents criticizing the mayor and the state's attorney for some botched up shit that they've done. And there's a friend of mine in the chat. I actually knew her long enough for about we go back to like third grade. Mm-hmm. And she had a question.
Okay.
Do the police have periodic training to handle the public in various situations? Because most jobs do quarterly or yearly training in customer service and etc. Yes, called in-service, and also other type meetings like such as in-service where you visit the school-age children.
Wait. Sorry, you telling me the police have in-serve like the military? Because in the Navy, we have all training called in-serve.
I'll say that again because you came in scratchy.
So are you telling me the police have a similar training regimen to the military? Because in the military, especially in the Navy, we have in-serve.
Yeah, because it's paramilitary.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to have in-service because if you don't go to in-service, you will lose your commission and your certification. So you have to have that yearly and periodic training. I mean, your periodic training also consists of firearms.
Oh, I don't know if you brought one.
Your periodic training, such as in-service, also consists of new laws, and which you can and cannot do, new technologies, such as your pocket cop, where you can basically read your policies on your phone, or what to do, what not to do. You also have new guidelines. What new units are being established, and what different techniques to use now. So a lot of this stuff when it comes to training, I wish people would just ask the question, how much training do we get? We get numerous. Besides, I've also came and volunteered out of pocket and also paid for training because I'm also a member of the Maryland's Tactical Officers Association, where I was training for a week with tactical officers who came to Anne Arundel County, where we met, and trained us for an entire week with also other different tactics. How to be undercover, escape, and evasion. How to get an officer or civilian out of a hot zone, which is basically a live firefight for all the civilians that are there. So the training is ongoing. It's periodic and it's also yearly.
So that means the problem isn't training. The problem is simply just racism.
The problem is not just racism. The problem is just a bunch of dumb motherfuckers who are racist. A fucking culture shock, and then you have lazy ass black people who will not take over the system for themselves, which they don't even have to infiltrate because it's your own goddamn cities. Is that fair to say?
You know what? You know what? Get 1 second. We have the Supreme Elder here. Welcome to the panel, Supreme Elder. Good evening to you.
What's up?
How you doing? Nice to meet you, Mr. Faulkner.
What's up? And it's crazy because when I go on different panels, man, I could have been getting paid a lot of money to be on the panels the last 2 months. But in all seriousness, it's funny because the average citizen has the greatest level of ignorance when it comes to policing and military, especially in the black community. Where how did you think your grandfather got their fucking house? Through the VA. So many of our grandparents and great-grandparents have our houses through the VA. But yet, how many black kids are going through the Boy Scouts? Oh, that's another thing that the professor even brought up. How many Boy Scouts units do we have in cities like Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, ROTC, Explorers programs, where we can groom these boys into being law enforcement? We miss out on a lot of good shit, man.
Yeah, while giving them our own black political identity and agenda. So whenever they take up these positions, there's no fucking question of what politics they support.
And you won't have the ABLs of the world talking about how the Ku Klux Klan used to give his grandmother toys and stuff.
Oh, man.
No, I'm just joking. We're going to talk about that right
now. Look, 4th of July coming up, we're like, what, ABL, where you at? Got some toys for
What he thought was, he thought it was Halloween, and he thought they were all ghosts or some shit. That's what he thought.
Hey, no, he literally said it. Supreme Elder, do you want to weigh in on this? See, what I wanted to do, and I'm glad.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to give just a little bit of pushback to Mr. Faulkner. I understand what you're saying. We need to get our young youth and our black kids involved into law enforcement. Of course, that goes without saying. We all a place at the table when it comes to laws, especially when it affects our communities. But on that same hand, sir, I wish you tell the young kid that his initial contact with the police is one of either a bad situation, his life was threatened, or he's placed in handcuffs, and convince that kid when he's old enough that that's a unit that he wants to be a part of.
Well, I'm going to say this. The one thing that I do, especially when it comes to the young children, one thing that is a bane to my soul, and it makes me piss fucking fire and vinegar, is when a parent tells their child when they see me walking, if you're bad or you act up at school, the police are going to get you. No, and I come here and I tell the kid, come here for a minute and hold the kid's hand and walk them outside, no, or pick them up. They're like, no, police do not do that. That's a parenting issue, and I shame the parents for that. And I hold the kid up and I tell him, hey, you're a great kid. You can be a police officer, astronaut, president, scientist, whatever you choose to be. That's not breaking the law. Failing a test is not breaking the law. See, that's called belief. And also, what I've done for almost 20 years, and Drake and Cerulean can actually attest to you. I've been coaching wrestlers at the high school level at Lake Clifton for years. So when they see me and they know, like, hey, oh, that's Coach. Most of them don't even call me officer. It's Coach. Hey, Coach, how you doing, Coach? most of them are shocked. They don't believe that I'm a police officer until they actually see me in uniform. So you have to become an intricate part of the community. You don't just say it just for them to believe it. You live it.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, but that still doesn't take away from the fact of, there are kids out there that unfortunately don't have that opportunity, whereas there's just as you are the exception to the rule. A lot of folks would say when it comes to the police that there's still that element of when a kid, let's say white kid or black kid, sees a policeman, just for the S and G's of it, and automatically there's two reactions. The white kid is comfortable, but the black kid is like, it's time for us to get on up out of here. That's not something that you can place completely on the parents.
It's very rarely that little kids, black or white, feels afraid of the police. As a matter of fact, it's a weird phenomenon of little kids. They all hug me for some reason. I don't know why. I guess they love the big guy with the uniform on. So most of them are hugging and they're playing and they're like, "Hi, police." The disconnect starts when around 12, 13. Now, do you have people who, what I've seen it, where most black people don't mess with the police? Yeah, I've seen it, lived in it. But we also have to take into account how many people do not like the police because the police lock up their own. And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. How many people?
I've said I've been around a lot of people who have admitted they didn't like the police because the police locked up their brother, and they had to admit because they were young. Not saying that's everybody's situation. Because they were young, they didn't understand it. What's going on? Hell, one of my best friends even said it. He's like, I didn't like the police growing up, but then I had to look at my uncles, and they were in the jail. They were selling drugs and everything. So I was like, oh, no wonder the police used to come up here so often. I thought they just didn't like it. So a lot of times, when we have the open and police, this is what you got to hear some shit the police are going to say you're not going to like. The police are going to have to hear some shit that the teenagers are going to say and the police don't like. But then you will have an understanding. Because guess what? It also goes back to what myself and Professor Gray said prior. One of the biggest issues you have with police-involved incidents is culture shock. How can a motherfucker from Carroll County, which is ultra white, it's so goddamn white you can hang it up with a bed sheet, and a lot of the bed sheets actually still exist out there, if you get my drift.
I understand it.
Come to Baltimore City, which is 70% black, and understand black culture, and you never live with them. So you're going to have a culture shock. Why do you see guys on the corner? Not everybody hanging around the store in the corner selling drugs. A lot of people do not have central air AC all over the house. That is still, in a lot of black communities, a new phenomenon, relative. So when you see somebody, black people are more social than white people.
May I interrupt you there just for a second? I understand what you're saying about culture shock, which is okay. I'll agree with that part of it. But doesn't that fall back on the police? That when you hire someone, and why would you, as you said, send a policeman that grew up in Carroll County into DeKalb County to police? He knows nothing about that neighborhood, and chances are, just through the history of the United States, there's some people that see black people as the underclass. So I would imagine, and I would imagine in him growing up through that lifestyle, it may not have been that they disparaged black people, but they may have not also spoke highly of them. Now that you have a guy that's been trained for less than a year to go into a situation where he knows nothing of, and expect him to be proactive in that situation.
But that's a two-part thing. From my dealings with local politics, that literally comes from. That's one thing that does come from the people. You know, we spent the better part of 5 years trying to get people excited about an initiative that we were putting down to have a pipeline for more black police, more black EMTs, EMS, and firefighters. We were successful in getting an actual program, a state dedicated program for more black EMS and EMTs. We were unsuccessful in getting more black police because the communities, and this is what I know of black people, is why I put it in the Great Faulkner Initiative. We have this us versus them. It's not, adversarial. We look at police as an occupation force, and for the most part, it actually is, because you do have a lot of the guys. I talked about this with you the other day. We have a police legacy family called Grunhauser, and they have a gun maker. Now, these are all trust fund babies, pay to play police officers, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is if we can't get more black police officers into these positions, well, guess what happens? Whoever is the mayor or whoever is the township leader, they get to select willy-nilly who they want to deputize. And there could be a person that can literally flop his way through police academy, and just because they like him or because they know the family of this flop out, still end up on the police force.
And I like to piggyback off of that, right? See, this is another thing. You know who always asks for policing, and they usually have crime in their neighborhoods, which a lot of it happens, oddly enough, in black communities. First thing they said, we need more police on the street. If you are the mayor and you're part of the city council, what's the first damn thing you're going to do? You're going to pump out more police. Okay? Why? Because your constituents who put you in there are demanding something of you, and to put more police in that area. Okay? So when you have people, and you need people who actually qualify, because one thing black people has a bad habit of, is we give a fuck about our records, which we need to, because it's another form of discrimination. And we need to actually cherish them damn records like gold and diamonds. And a lot of us are giving the fucking positions away to those guys in Carroll County, out in other states and other countries, because we don't have enough people who actually qualify for it.
And the qualified, that's like a non-starter with me, because we broke down the numbers in the Great Faulkner Initiative. You have an overwhelming majority of these black boys that are coming out of high school that qualify to be police officers. They haven't got a mark on their record or any of that. And so when they say, "Oh, you're not qualified," that's just a fucking lie. For anyone that's in politics to tell me that, "Oh, well, these black kids ain't qualifying," that's a bunch of bullshit. We've actually had it.
And you know what else, to piggyback again, is this. When you have a large amount of people with no records who qualify, and somehow they get disqualified, that's called a class action lawsuit. Let's investigate this shit.
And the problem with the class action lawsuit is that it always, see, the class action lawsuit, problem I have with that is that they never go through whenever it comes to that. And the reason why is because they're always protected by that fucking union. And that fucking union has absolved itself of being liable for things like racism and discrimination. And that's why, if we're going to start with police reform, it should begin at abolishing all of the policemen's unions. There is no reason a public servant should have a private accommodation. That should be only reserved for a private citizen that goes to work for his daily bread and butter, right? In a private corporation, to where he has to be protected from, say, a Delta Airlines just laying all of the damn airline mechanics off.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what a union is for. See, a police officer works for elected officials. And elected officials, if they don't want to do that, then every single time there is a police shooting of a citizen, you know what? The official, if they don't want to protect the police, the elected official should have to take the hit for that police officer.
Mm.
The police officer fine. Then the mayor, whose wife was happen under, should go to jail.
Cerulean, you coming a little bit garbled. A little bit on the back end. Yeah, you coming a little bit garbled.
For the FOP, especially for the Baltimore Police Department.
All right, how am I coming in now?
Oh, you're coming in good. Way better.
Yeah,
the FOP for the Baltimore Police Department is not necessarily protection against the citizen. Because, one, when they have this new system called Blue Team, people can complain about whatever the fuck they want. Now, you have to investigate to see if it's founded. Because when people say, well, this person had a lot of complaints. Shit, I got a lot of complaints. Because people complain. If I come to your house and I'll be like, and you're speaking to me in such a way, and I'm telling you there's no need to be nasty. I don't complain. You called me nasty. Go right ahead. So, if people complain and they say you have a lot of complaints, I wish people would actually tell the whole fucking story. Now, has he got a lot of bullshit complaints? Because that's the one thing the media never tells you. Does he have a lot of bullshit complaints? Okay, or are they valid? Like, was he reprimanded for anything that was valid? What action was taken?
Yeah.
So, when we look at this shit for FOP, the FOP is not necessarily for protection. Because everybody in their job has protection. Why? Because if the department tries to fire you, you have a trial board or some type of penal system, which every profession has, you have the right to it. Meaning, if somebody accuses me of going into the department and they're going to terminate me, I can fight it. I'll have my lawyer. And they'll go through the whole procedure to see if you yay or nay. Now, when it comes to protection, the FOP is more so protection when it comes to if the mayor wants to furlough, if the mayor wants to cut our budget, if the mayor wants to extend our pension, our years before we get the pension. So you have to have some of that, because guess what? If you don't have certain protections, you won't have a police department. You won't have a fire department. You won't have certain departments.
Well, I completely agree with you, and you know, in the how would I say this, in the courtroom, and you know, in a few other places, that's the end result. And we understand that the police have to be funded to a certain amount to do their jobs. And for the most part, we do have police that are out there to, number one, protect and serve. But we also, and what folks want to seem to get away from, is those police that don't uphold that oath that you yourself seem taken and hold dearly. And just from listening to your conversation, you know, it would be hard for a kid to disparage whether you're a good cop or bad cop. You know, your reputation precedes yourself sometimes. So, you know, but it comes to that point of that's great for, you know, for us as black men and black women and black children to hear that on the other side that the police are trying to be progressive, but in the meantime, down in the streets, it doesn't show. And as far as the chokehold things, I can remember up until the 1980s, that was a part of the police arsenal. And well into the 80s and almost up into the 90s until it became a nationwide thing that police departments were banned from using the chokehold. So you think about this, if a policeman came into the force as a rookie in the 1980s, everybody he trains from that time on is subject to learn about that chokehold. And vice versa. So to say that it was simply because it was banned on a piece of paper, we've all seen, not only from YouTube, but in personal episodes for ourselves, that the chokehold is the first thing that the police apply to most suspects. So to say that that part of the police training doesn't exist, it absolutely does. That's like telling a Marine, I don't know how to use a bayonet because somebody stopped. I don't get to use it often. But that is a part of their arsenal. We see that today.
You got to realize it. There's a lot of people in every position, every profession that goes outside the line.
Yes, I understand. Right. Yes, I understand that in some professions people go outside the line. But in this particular profession, it's a life and death situation. You don't get a second chance at going over the line.
Even when they got that one, right? That person's penalized. Because now it's easy for an officer to get fired and charged than it's ever been. So, and then you got to remember, if this is the policing that people like, the police department has more of a hands-off policy, a distancing policy, especially in mine, where they want arrests, which always been, I don't know why the hell they have to emphasize it, the last thing to do. So when you have a hands-off policy, remember, a lot of people, when it comes to police, they expect the police to be miracle workers. In some ways, like I said, there are times when you're going to get dirty. You're going to have a guy fighting you. If you saw some of the fights I've been in my career, people would swear up and down, oh, that's police brutality. I'm like, you didn't see this guy swing on me? Like, and I don't expect people to say, hey, well, we understand. No, they're not. Sometimes they're not. I had guys bigger than me who, unfortunately, hey, he kept fighting. You hit him till he goddamn falls.
And that's understandable if you have
Well, let me finish. Mm-hmm. And this is the usual gist. A lot of people will be apprehensive. Well, I don't see why the police can do this. I can see why the police shoot in the arm. Like, I remember I was listening to Char Willie and Classic Rudy. Why can't they train to shoot the gun out of the hand or in the arm? I said, good luck with that shit. That's movie shit. Even when you pull your gun out, it's the fight or flight. You get that tunnel vision. Your shots are like, it's hard to shoot fucking paper targets when it's a calm environment. You're talking about when there's even a semi-threatening situation, a person's going to be able to shoot a gun out of a hand? The hell no. And even still, when people look into a court of law, that's a precision shot. That's going to say you had enough time. You're going to need time to shoot a gun out of a motherfucker's hand, especially if he's moving. And it's not imminent danger. Just like
we're talking about individual situations.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is something specific, right? The overall politics of it. These officers work for an elected official. The current Hennepin County county attorney is Mike Freeman. Okay? If you don't know who Mike Freeman is, Mike Freeman's father for the state of Minnesota during the time of John F. Kennedy, okay, was the head of the Department of Agriculture. His father was also, once upon a time, the Minnesota governor. This is a guy who's lifelong, through pedigree, has been involved in politics. Okay? He's the elected official. He is the probably third top policing official in the state of Minnesota. Okay, there's no reason why someone like him should sit on his hands for 4 days to wait for a prosecution for something that is clearly a murder. Okay? And so, what's been protecting him? Well, who was one of his biggest supporters during his election? It was the Policemen's Union. It was one of his biggest contributors. And so, why did he sit on his hands? Well, because the Policemen's Union made a charitable donation, sizable one, to his election campaign. And so, if that Policemen's Union didn't exist, well, that Policemen's Union couldn't lean on him to get leniency for a murderous officer who he was only going to charge with third-degree murder. See, this is what I'm talking about with the politics thing.
And that's that third-degree murder. Everybody can see that shit a mile away. And
see, why would
Isn't just as one thing. Sharger jumped in. He's down there. Just want to acknowledge. But what I wanted to say is, after this round turn, we can go into closing thoughts. Because I know the esteemed elder, he's got a show later on tonight. Or is that's correct, elder over at GSRN?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'll record for tonight's show for tomorrow's broadcast.
Oh,
yes.
for tomorrow's broadcast, right? So
yes.
Yeah. So
I just want to,
yeah.
Say, fine. If you know this guy's history, who's the current county attorney for Hennepin, you're talking about the Good Old Boys Network. Okay? That's why you only want to charge this murderous officer with third-degree murder.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's an elected official, but see, the thing is that if that policeman's union didn't make a charitable donation, guess what? He wouldn't have any fucking hands to sit on because he wouldn't have been in the damn chair. Just as diligent as white folk are about politics, we need to be just that diligent too.
Agreed. I would agree with that 100%. That's something that we have to blame on ourselves as far as the black community. We don't. The best thing for us sometimes is to say, "Oh, it's not going to work, so let me step out of this." So I would agree with that. Yeah, we do need to make our own way to get a seat at the table. Yeah, but the question is, so much is how many things we got to push out the way to get to the table.
If it's like I tell people, you never got power from begging.
Absolutely.
So first thing I would say, if we're going to go for a complete police or law enforcement reform, the oversight committee has to be ran by us. The executives of that committee have to be ran by us. Our own anti-defamation league. Everybody has their own anti-defamation league with black folk. No wonder you can get away with saying nigga, 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 but the moment you say homo, 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 faggot, everybody has a problem with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's also something when I always tell people, always educate yourself. I don't care if people know the law. I want you to. I don't care if people know our policies. I want you to. That makes my job easy. So if I do have to arrest you, you can't claim ignorance. So if you do go into an incident, you know who to speak to if you have a complaint. I have no problem getting my supervisor. Oh shit, if I could get the commissioner all day, I would. Why? That's called, I know that everything I did was by the book. See, that's called confidence, not arrogance. Okay, here you go. You want to get the motherfucker out there. Okay, cool. But what we need is actually reform and change. We're going to have to get more people involved within the city councils, within the police departments. You're going to have to groom these people to be
and from my close vicinity to a lot of it, and this is what I know for a fact, this is what they do, right? Police officer who works under the elected official right, kills a citizen. Now, the mayor, I don't think they should fire that person. I think they should be convicted in uniform. How they trick you is that with the policemen's union's protocol is you can't convict them as a police officer. You have to convict them as a civilian. See, that way everything that he did under uniform is protected, including the pensions and all of that. See, that's wrong. See, we're not talking about the right kind of reform. We're talking about the kind of reform that still allows a killer cop to basically get off scot-free, basically scot-free, because you could go to jail all you want to. As long as you still got access to that pension, jail is going to be a breeze. No, he should be working for the same 20 cents an hour that the brother in Angola driving the goddamn combine gets. If not, put their ass all under the UCMJ and create a 3 strikes clause. In 3 strikes, your ass is out. And anybody else get caught hiring you gets penalized and fined. If we're talking about real police reform. All of you should be under the UCMJ. Since your benefits are similar to those of the military, you should be under the UCMJ. Oh, you got caught putting your knee on somebody's neck? Article 134, bad conduct discharge. You won't be able to work anywhere. You won't even be able to work at McDonald's. Or 96 crime bill. This is where we get inspiration from. 3 strikes and you're out. You got 3 strikes against you. You get caught hitting somebody that you ain't got no business hitting. Somebody that was cooperating. Hell, you didn't even pepper spray a cooperative citizen. That's a strike on you. You get caught killing somebody, hey, that's 3 strikes right there. We do the same trumped up charges that the police like to give black boys. Oh, not only did you assault or really assault someone with a deadly weapon.
As a matter of fact, that's how many of the police departments are going.
But Charles, they're not. They're not. We've seen it all too often. We've seen it all throughout the end of George Bush Jr. We've seen it all throughout Barack Obama's. We've seen it all throughout Trump's presidency. They are not getting penalized the way that they should be. And the reason why it's been this way and this corrupt is because the shit has never been checked.
Now, when I look at these cases, and I look at them, and I see a lot of these fucking cases. Look at Amber Geiger when she shot the guy in his house. What did she get? 4 or 5 years? Another thing that also happens is the outcry. There's no fucking way. There's no way I'm gonna tell that judge. There's no way that you're gonna fucking give her 4 years for murdering a person. Part of that is because of a forgiving ass nature, and we all know that shit. How the fuck you gonna forgive somebody who just brutally murders without question, no rhyme, no reason? Just shoots a motherfucker in their house.
Well, here's the
and a lot of times in this shit, our outcry for it is like, look, we will not stand for no 4 years, no 5 years. You are under the Constitution of the United States like all of us. You will be charged accordingly. And I tell people, the one thing about it, when we have these issues, a lot of us do not stay on it. We let these pastors, we let these flick talking politicians,
let these fucking homos come and co-opt our shit and make their fucking thing about homo rights. Like, are we fucking kidding?
Like for some odd reason, I swear to God, I've said this for many a time. Anything a black guy, I'll answer classic Ruby's comments. A black man can't have no fucking struggles himself. since he's the number one target towards unjustified policing. And I like using that term because a lot of it's not justified. What are you doing here? Why can't I be here? Now, when we go to this shit in these trials, a lot of motherfuckers do not stick to it and be like, look, we want this motherfucker to be prosecuted the same way you would prosecute us. And stay with it. Let me see the class. And the results are clear that training and field training has such impact in saving living officers' lives. I'm guessing a lot of those aspects too. See,
I mean, not only that, but we allow the mainstream to browbeat us into self-censorship. Like, you still got, channels out there, the anti-black channels speaking against a black folk man brutally murdered, and you still got sorry pieces of shit like a Candace Owens or like a fucking ABL who should be struck. See, this is what happens when you have an anti-defamation league of your own. You get those fucking channels struck down, and they can be sued. They can be held liably accountable. I would sue fucking ABL into the ground if George Floyd was my family.
Exactly.
I would sue Candace Owens into fucking the poorhouse, onto Skid Row if George Floyd's my family.
And you know what's really what you say is correct. And in Charles and stuff like that. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna let Chandra let him say some words. Let the elder start off with the final words, and we'll just end with the with this esteemed Cerulean, and then I'll wrap into the show because I like to keep it no more than 2.5 hours at the most. Because this is something that's very interesting. That's why I wanted to make sure we got into the panel portion of this an hour after the 60-minute mark into the show. Chandra, welcome.
Good evening to the esteemed members of the panel. Cerulean, Parker, esteemed elder. I wanted to go ahead and respond definitively to what the problem that Elder Music posed, right? You ask how are we supposed to tell the kid who gets arrested, let's say at 11 years old, put in handcuffs at 11 years old, right, that he should join the police department, right? Well, simply put, you tell him, if you want to stop that from happening, you become that change. If you become the police officer, the next time you can prevent that 11-year-old kid from getting put in handcuffs.
Or as a matter of fact, if you become that police officer, you could actually relate to that little black 11-year-old boy to know that he don't belong in no fucking handcuffs. The same way that they do with white kids, let them get handcuffed in the front and put a jacket over them, kind of like the way they did Dylan Roof. Even take him for a little Wendy's burger after he gets done mass murdering a group of people.
If I was fucking chief of police, all the motherfuckers be fired. And that was a small town, right? And see, this is the difference. When you go to those small fucking towns where they, from West Bumfuck whatever, what the fuck do I let a prisoner eat? That's a good way for him to fucking escape. And see, this is the shit that gets me upset. When you got these small town motherfuckers, but I'm gonna let Sandra Kirsten finish because that you just made me like that fucking incident right there pissed me off with so many levels. But go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, and the other thing there is that if you're part of the force, you can be the one stopping that white cop from arresting that 11-year-old if he's your partner or whatnot, or at least you can voice your dissent as a member of the force, and you can actually be the one that prevents that thing from happening in the future. Or, you know what? Hey, you don't even have to be a cop. You can become a lawyer who litigates against those kind of things. But the problem is when we allow these children to have these feelings of dissent towards the cop or towards the law itself, then we lose out on those positions of power with which we can change things. Elder Music.
Okay. I completely understand where you're coming from on that, and again, I agree with you. It's peace to the panel, and I would say it seems to me that I'm speaking to some intelligent, well thought out young brothers. But as speaking from the elder here, I don't know if any of you folks remember the TV cop show 1 Adam 12. Remember that show?
I don't know. I don't think I'm old enough to remember that.
Right. 1 Adam 12 was what we used to as young black children coming up. That was the image if we saw the police. They stopped and they helped everybody. You know, they had the uniform on. Of course, they had their side piece or whatever. But in every situation that we saw Martin Milner and Kent McCoy come into, whether they were black and white, that moniker on the side of their car, their protectors, as that was portrayed by those police officers, that's what, you know, in my generation, that's what we saw. So I can migrate with each generation of the police from that 70s show up to the police that I see now. Now, if we take a look at all the riots and everything that's going on, you cannot, anyone of conscious mind can say that the police are out there doing what they can to not hurting people. That's anyone who disagrees with that. The police are a little bit out of hand in these streets. You know, you got to say, you know, maybe I'm looking at it with blinders. But to tell a young kid at 12, 13 years old that not only did he have a bad encounter with the police, his father may have had an encounter with the police, his cousin may have had an encounter with the police, his mother may have had an encounter with the police, and now it's him. So it's a generational thing of every generation that I've talked to as far as a young black man. They've all told me horror stories about the police. You cannot deny these are actual facts. These, I can guarantee you right now, gentlemen, if we was to put 100 men in the room, they would always say the same thing. I don't remember a good experience with the police.
I know that for a fact, esteemed elder. And the thing is that I've had some horrible interactions with the police. Mm-hmm. Some that could have been life-threatening. And nonetheless, because I've been on the inside of the institutions, I understand that the only way that can be changed is from the inside. You're not gonna change it as a window shopper.
Right. Absolutely. So if I may continue here, so what I'm saying is we're fighting a two-headed hydra here. You know, we do have great policemen. There's no joke about that. But we also have that element with that other element that's funding these bad policemen. That's not holding them accountable, like you said, Cerulean, with these policemen unions. That's got all this money backing these bad policemen. That there's no credibility. There's no honor in what they do because they know that someone has got their back. Just think about this last policeman here. He had 18 infractions on his record. In any other job, 18 infractions, you would have been fired. Bottom line. But because the police unions are so strong, this man must continue to be on the police force. And we have other instances of police being able to go from one jurisdiction to the other. I know if you get fired from one job in Georgia and go apply for a job in South Carolina, they're going to call that job in Georgia and see what kind of employee you was. Why can't we adapt that with the police? It's the same principle. It's the very same principle. There's some things that we're talking about that it's an easy fix, it's an easy change, but folks want to always go back to the point of, well, it's in the community, It goes both ways. Yes, our community does need help in fixing itself, but we can't go up in there running our head up against the wall 2 or 3 times, figuring, damn, that hurts.
And that does happen with because what happens is the policemen's union, there's a dictate that similar to the way that we have been trying to run a policy that prevents businesses from asking whether or not a person may be convicted of a felony, in which we had to lean on a compromise to where the felonies that applicants had to be upfront about were those that involved things like sexual crimes. And the problem with that is that with the policemen's union is that it actually bars other jurisdictive authorities from looking into the background of the police apply for a job in another state, which is a problem. Because if I get fingerprinted, say I'm in Minnesota and I go to say South Carolina and get fingerprinted, guess what? That's a national database that goes directly to the UCR. Why is there no UCR for bad cops? Well, the policeman union prevents that from happening.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're all discussing here. So, I mean, it's yes. Again, I agree that our community has to take some of what's happening to us. We have to own up to that. You know, you can't say my house is clean and you keep moving into a new house and you keep putting the same dirty furniture back in it. That's on us. Well, I'll accept that. I will. But we have to look at it from the standpoint of what the public is thinking right now. Maybe it's not us because we see it every day. We don't see the good cops right now. All we see is bad cops.
And I take the position of the esteemed Gavin Long. Is that the only way that it's going to change is if you make it change, and you have to be on the inside of the institution to make it change, because the corruption is so corrupt. And I remember a friend of mine who's a St. Paul police officer. He told me, he said, "Look, if I speak up, I don't know how many of these white supremacists are in the department, because a lot of them they stay silent and they act like they're fair-seeming liberal whites, and yet whenever it comes down to it, they could be the one that bites his head off,
or not backing him in a bad situation."
Yeah, that is absolutely correct on both ends. What I'm gonna do is go on the round table. We got 3 minutes left. Can we get the closing thoughts and closing not arguments, because we're having a discussion. We don't argue over here. But closing thoughts for everybody involved. And I'd like to thank all of you once again. I'd like to thank Charles for coming up here, because I didn't want to go too much into particulars online, because you still have a job to do, and you know, when you're on some clandestine stuff, you don't put it out to the public, a lot of stuff. But I hope you hang around after the show is over. But I appreciate you coming up here, being a police officer, being, you know, we from the same city, and we know each other personally. You know, coming up here and giving us your take on the other side and clearing up some misconceptions and some things of that nature. And the Supreme Elder, as always, and Supreme Commander and Chandra, you know, me, my mental twin over here. He may stay quiet, but you know he's on it. So whoever would like to start off with the closing thoughts, and also once you finish your closing thoughts, whatever promos that you need to get done, or you please drop those promos in there, because we love supporting our black platforms and businesses.
Alrighty. I'll just say thank you for allowing me to be on the panel. Again, it's always nice to talk to men of substance, especially when the men of substance that we're talking to are young black men. You know, I wish you fellas safety out there. And, you know, appreciate it and keep up the good work. If you, in just a little while, right after I leave here, we'll be recording a segment for my air show tomorrow, the show and I, and we'll drop the link in there if you folks want to carry on this discussion a little bit further. You're more than welcome to, because that will be part of the segment that we are speaking on tomorrow. So you're more than welcome to join us in the discussion. It'll air at GSRN Radio tomorrow at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you once again for letting me on the panel. Thank you, MrDJMuziq, Cerulean Grey, as well as the esteemed Officer Charles Faulkner, for being up on the panel and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Because without you guys in the front lines, we're not leaders in our front lines. We as a community don't have direction. Thank you. Woo. Woo.
I guess I'm next.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with my other half of the tag team champions of the world, the Professor Cerulean, my greatest rival of all time, Dre. Love you, man.
You too, man.
MrDJMuziq, always a pleasure. Probably one of the first times I had a chance to speak with you. So definitely a pleasure. Chandra, my man. Always a pleasure. I just say this. One, Do we need police reform? Yes. But we must not forget that we need to be able to be willing to do the job ourselves. Let's take the initiative, no pun intended, to get our black boys and groom them to be leaders, to groom them to be protectors, groom them to be problem solvers that we're going to need in this 21st century when we revolutionize and reform policing. Thank you and good night.
Woo. Well, I would like to say gratitude to the esteemed Dre. As always, it is a pleasure and an honor. Salute to our esteemed elder, DJMuziq, esteemed paladin Shadow Cursor, and our esteemed brethren, Officer Pampero, the other half of the initiative. Let's say it's not going to change unless we change it. And my position is the reason why we call it an initiative is because it takes initiative to make the change. There's only so much that you can do asking. There's only so much you can do demanding. We have to get into the mindset of taking position. You know, kind of like in the Navy, we have man your battle stations. I'm saying your battle stations is on the inside of those institutions, not from the outside throwing rocks at it. You know, Gavin Long wrote a manifesto that laid out how the only way we could change it is from the inside. Micah Johnson, ad nauseum, before he did what he did, wrote ad nauseum. We have to be on the inside of the institutions. He even made a statement on Facebook in which he wished he had more, black men like himself to join that institution that we call the military, that were willing to make that sacrifice. And whenever he did what he did it full on well, knowing what the consequences are. And he said, to hell with the consequences. And I noticed that with every one of our brothers that make that grand sacrifice, they made the same statements before they did what they did. You know, now as you know, I'm still on hiatus. I'm on hiatus until July. I think the Grey regime is in good hands. We still have our esteemed Dre, as you see it on the remarkable show. Esteemed Paladin Shadow Cursor, Crew Reality, our esteemed Lady Shar, our esteemed DJMuziq here, still holding it down. And then Saturday night, it'll be Ladies' Night with the esteemed Ebony Star Network. Ready to get some deep and impactful discussions from the ladies. Furthermore, let's say, it is about Iblis or nothing. Salute to the nation, and long live the black nobility.
Now, to everyone that is out there, and everyone that
Like, share, comment, subscribe, and
So, to everybody out there, to everybody that came to the show, I'd like to thank every last one of you, for coming out and showing support and being with us. Also, to the chat, to my mods, you did a great job today. To our new guests that came by, thank you once again. To Don Teasy, CRU Reality, Charles Faulkner, Black Pill Paradise, Classic Ruby, JustaskChar, Vonda, Callie Jane. Let's see, let's make sure we have everybody that's here. Chaos Reigns came through. The First Lady of the Ebony Star Network, Neek, thank you for coming through. Simply Neek, thank you for coming through once again. Zero, the Infinite Yerp, how are you doing? Thank you for coming through and showing support once again. To all of you that are watching in the clouds, Please like, comment, and subscribe. If I do not do the show on Tuesday, your time, I will do the show on Wednesday. We will be still doing the show. We will still touch on some things. But the 1/3 show is about things that you don't get in the mainstream media, and we like to have a little discussion afterwards. And we all do not have to agree on every tenets and points, but you notice that we were all respectful. We were all respectful. I'd like to thank every last one of you for coming once again. Abba Noblis. Salute to the Black Nobility. Salute to the Ebony Star Network. Salute to GSRN, the Global Sensations Radio Network. Salute to the Elder Music. Salute to the First Lady of the Black sector of YouTube, Char Willie. And salute to everyone else out there. And have a wonderful and blessed night. And no one will beg you to